Welcome to the Content Podcast, conversations with Silicon Valley's creatives. I'm Daniel Garcia, your host and the cultivator of Content Magazine, published by SV Creates.
Hi, this is Steve.
Today we talk with Steve Borkenhagen. He's an entrepreneur, restaurateur, arts supporter, and currently the executive director of Urban Confluence Silicon Valley. Hey Steve, how you doing? This is Daniel.
Hi, Daniel.
It is so good to hear your voice, my friend. It's been a long time.
Much too long during this strange time.
Yeah, it has. It's kind of funny. Hey, I wanted to jump right out at the gate and ask you, because you started Camera One back in like 1975-ish. Is that correct?
Good research. That is right.
So that means you have been involved in San Jose and downtown for 45 plus years.
Yeah, and actually I went to San Jose State for a few years before that, so I've been either in school or doing other things downtown since about 1972.
Yeah, that's crazy. Now, how were you raised in San Jose? How did you get into San Jose?
I was raised in Santa Clara. My dad uh, went to Santa Clara after the war on the GI Bill, and so he came to Santa Clara, met my mom, got married right after the war, having older brother, older sister than me, and a couple younger sisters. And my parents lived in the same house from when they got married and until they died.
Wow. Yeah, that's cool. So then you kind of were in this area. You did do some schooling up in San Francisco too, right? But you've been pretty much around here for the majority of your life.
Yeah, not majority of all of my life. I've
Okay.
been here forever. Again, grew up in Santa Clara. Then I went to Santa Clara University for a year, but didn't really like it at the time. So I went off to San Francisco to an experimental college called New College of California. I just did that for a semester in 1971, and then I went to West Valley for a semester. Then I went to San Jose State for 3 years, and then we started opening businesses, and that was it for college.
Yeah. So, like, how did you begin Camera One, and then like what was kind of like the thinking behind that, and what was going on?
A number of friends and I all went to San Jose State together. So the founders of Camera One, it was a whole bunch of us. Really, it was my wife Kathleen, uh, uh, Jack Nyblom was a film nut, as was Ed Rathman, and we worked with Jeff Whalen, Dennis Skaggs. There were really a bunch of us who opened the theater together. I think we paid ourselves about $100 a month each, or something like that. But we got tired of going to Palo Alto and Berkeley and San Francisco to see foreign films and repertory American films. So this little theater became available on South First Street, and we cobbled together a few $1,000s and opened. And sure enough, it became a success really quickly. There
Yeah.
were a number of people in San Jose who were interested in seeing great films. So we no one got rich, but we did well. And then that group, which I was only involved for about 5 years, but Jack Nyblom and Dennis Skaggs and Jim Zur, they went on to do Camera 3, then Camera 12, the
Yeah.
Town Theater, Los Gatos. They at one point, I want to say they had 20 screens or so, and then
Wow.
those all died over the years, like most businesses. And then I think Jack is still involved at the Prune Yard, if I'm not mistaken.
So did you kind of pull away from Camera One as you began to do Eulipia? Was that kind of the transition from that point?
Yeah. So in '77, we opened this jazz club coffee house, Eulipia, and Rathman and Bob Mello and I and my wife were we were the Eulipia people. So after a year or two, we decided to sell our interest for very little in Camera One.
Yeah.
Again, it was just a little tiny business. Uh, and so we focused on Eulipia while they stayed in the movie business, and then the rest of us all were in the bar and restaurant business for decades.
Yeah. Yeah. And you had Eulipia for what, until
Al-
2000,
Almost, almost,
2012-ish?
yeah, almost 40 years.
Yeah, that's crazy. So, and then of course that's transferred into Cafe Stritch, which now you currently aren't really that much involved in, right? It's kind of Michael, your son, who's the chef, and then Maxwell, who's kind of more the creative director, I guess you would call.
Yeah, I have nothing to do with Cafe Stritch except that my boys own it and operate it. Mike's the owner, Max is the artistic director.
Yeah.
As you probably know, they've been closed for 8 months
Yeah.
or so, as has pretty much every jazz club in America. Uh,
Yeah.
but no, I was helping a little in the early years of Stritch, but no, I have no ownership, no interest. I'm just a dad who likes to help his kids.
Yeah. So you're kinda out of the restaurant world. Like, where did you get this kind of I mean, you've started a lot of businesses. You were involved also at the beginning of San Pedro Square Market. That's actually when I first met you when you were kind of helping them out with the launch of that, and now you've kind of begun the 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 Lighthouse project that kind of morphed into the Urban Confluence. So I mean, it seems like you're very involved in kind of creating new things and making change and helping the city. Where did that all come from? What's in your DNA that kind of makes you do these things?
I don't know, but I've along with
It's either genius or stupidity, right? No.
yeah, mostly the latter. Uh, there are a few of us, especially in the mid '70s, who saw it as a great opportunity. Downtown was essentially um, like a war zone. There was almost nothing cultural going on. So, we
Yeah.
started Camera One, and then Eulipia. Jim Reber started the Rep, and Jim's a dear old friend of ours. Uh, Dan Pulcrano and David Cohen got Metro
Yeah.
going. So there were always a group of us who were trying to do what we thought were pretty cool things.
Yeah.
And once you start a few things, you realize that you can start things. You don't have to have other people do it. So I would say that that's what got into our DNA if it wasn't already there. And really the attitude, if not us who, if not now when. And that's really what informed our San Jose Light Tower Corporation, our Urban Confluence project is
Yeah.
when we started it, it was originally John Ball and Tom Woolman and me, and then Tom left, and Christine Davis has been really key to our project since she joined us 2 or 3 years ago. But we just think that we're doing something important, and if we don't do it, nobody's going to do it. So here we are.
Yeah, that's really cool. So, um, now the mission of the Urban Confluence, or the idea is to bring an iconic landmark to San Jose, right? Um, what's your why do you guys want to do that? That's a softball for you, just so you can promote it.
Yeah, thanks for all the softballs. Yeah, we all came at this from a similar perspective and attitude that it made no sense that the 10th biggest city in America and probably the wealthiest region in the world, maybe in the history of the world, being Silicon Valley, that there's no physical landmark. We've got lots of things to be proud of and famous for, but we don't have a Eiffel Tower, we don't have a Space Needle, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah,
So the only things that we really have are private businesses like the Apple spaceship or Nvidia that are beautiful buildings, but they're inward facing. They're not outward facing. So our
yeah,
goal was simply to create something beautiful and give it to San Jose as a gift, something that we can all enjoy. Our kids, our grandkids, our friends.
yeah,
We all live here. This is our home. So we want to live in a beautiful place, just like you want to have a beautiful painting on the wall at your house.
yeah,
We think our community deserves some kind of a really spectacular landmark that will cause our blood to run fast and get excited and feel that sense of artistic inspiration. And so we're fully at it doing it.
yeah. Would you say? I mean, being having a restaurant downtown and kind of seeing. I don't know how many different Renaissance, right? The downtown area has gone
Mhm.
underneath. But do you think even as, having a business, do you think that kind of informs because you're trying to kind of help create a place making, it kind of helps not only the reputation and the branding of the area, but also brings in tourism and finances. I mean, does that kind of play in it too for you or?
Well, from the beginning, even going back to when we were only a little over 20 years old when we started Camera One, we thought that cities should have artistic places. So first we opened a movie theater, then we opened a jazz club, And we didn't
Yeah.
know anything about movie theaters or jazz clubs. We just stumbled through and tried to figure it out. And, we went to New York and San Francisco and to the cool places and tried to figure out what made them work.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you remember, but Eulipia was also a jazz club during its first 5 years, and then we
Yeah.
became a fine dining restaurant for 30 plus. And then when the boys took over and did their thing, it's a jazz club again. So jazz
Right.
has always been in our roots. My dad was a professional jazz musician, so I grew up. I was one of the lucky ones that grew up with art everywhere and
Yeah.
symphonic music and jazz and paintings and things. So these the artistic urges were always part of my DNA, no doubt. And I think that things like jazz clubs and art galleries are very, even if they're private, are similar in their social function to landmarks and parks like we're trying to do now. They're all places that give us a richer, deeper life, and that's what I tried to do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could just see that kind of the entrepreneurness coming out of you through all these projects, and then that kind of like leads me into thinking about even the idea of Eulipia and excuse me, Eulipians, right? Would you
Mhm.
consider yourself to be kind of like what how you say his name is Rashan, right? Is that correct?
Rasan,
Rashan,
no, Rasan, not Rashan,
oh,
Rasan.
Rasan, right? Because he kind of coined that phrase, right? The Eulipians, right? The kind of, I guess it's
Yeah,
the artistic gypsies of some sort or something. Or
these are the
how would you?
artists and the creatives and the people who create music and other arts. And the album was called "The Return of the 5,000 Pound Man" that inspired us. And there was a tune on it called "Theme for the Eulipians,"
Yeah,
which Rasan wrote, and the lyrics were written by Betty Niels, who we've been lucky enough to become really great friends with over the years during the Stritch years. And
yeah,
so every year, which I know you've attended at our
yeah,
Rasanathon,
yeah.
Betty will do her poetry, and it's always the high point of the whole experience. But yeah, I'd like to think I'm at least an honorary Eulipian. I hope.
I think you are. I mean, you're doing it right. You're bringing change and bringing art to the town, and I think that's pretty cool. I have to say too, like when I think about it, when I was looking at the stuff and I saw that, like, wow, it was like 75, 77 that you began these endeavors, and when I see you, like, it's 45 years worth of you doing this, but you still seem like you have the strength of a 45-year-old or even
Thank,
younger than that. How do you
thank
do it? You jog normally, don't you? Or how do you stay so positive and healthy?
Well, I think the key when you get to be 68 or whatever age is don't look in the mirror because I do feel like I'm 30 except when I look in the mirror, so I try to avoid mirrors. But I ride my bike and play golf, and I was working out for a few years before COVID. Frankly, the biggest thing change for me personally in life was not being able to go to the gym, which has been really a drag.
Yeah.
But this idea you're young as you feel, I think there's some truth to it, even though we all have little creaks and pains. So I work at it, and I hang around with young people a lot, which is really good for the soul.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I
Young guy, Daniel, young guys like you.
yeah, right, yeah. I'm not that young. I hate Zoom calls because I see my little photo up there, I'm like, "Wait a minute, I'm older than I feel." So, okay, so now you're at San Pedro Square Market even when that was beginning, that was kind of Eulipia a Eulipian type of thing to bring a market to the town, and then now okay, the first idea was to bring back some sort of light tower, right?
For a very, very, very brief amount of time.
Yeah, and then that morphed into Urban Confluence, and give me the idea of where that has been leading and, going with that project.
So 4 years ago or so, John Ball and Tom Woolmott and I were talking about the old light tower and landmarks, etc. And we all agreed that we needed something. So for a brief amount of time, we thought let's do some kind of a version of the old light tower that was at uh, Market and Santa Clara Streets, and let's do it in Plaza de Cesar Chavez, full scale, which is about 230 feet or so. We
Yeah,
very quickly came to the conclusion, partly by talking to our friends and advisors and the mayor and Raul and others, that we needed to do something that was of today, not from 100 years ago.
Yeah.
So we quickly pivoted to realizing that what we should do is just something spectacular. And then we went through all the different ways that we might do that. And we settled on having an ideas competition, which, as you know, we're near the end of right now,
Yeah.
because we could have done it many other ways. We could have simply engaged an A-list designer. We could have had an RFP, RFQ kind of process where we
Mhm.
interviewed 5 or 10 big names, and then we chose 1 or 3 finalists or something like that. But we chose the competition route because we were really inspired by Maya Lin and the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Washington, and she was
Yeah.
a young student who won this competition. So we always kind of hoped that our competition would be like that, and as it turns out, we got about 1,000 submittals, which was
Yeah.
one of, if not the most successful competition in the world in the last few years. There haven't that's a lot of submissions to get because these submissions took a lot of work on the part of the creatives, you know, because you're a
Yeah.
creative yourself. But 2 of the 3 finalists ended up being these myelin type characters. These are these young men who are about 30 years old. They don't have a practice yet. They One just got out of Harvard, the other one just got out of a design school in Southern California. One was born in China, one was born in Japan, and the
Yeah.
third finalist was born in Spain and lives in Australia. So we were
Yeah.
truly a worldwide competition. We weren't just a little local, parochial, regional kind of thing. And it was an immense amount of work, but we believe we made the right decision, and we got literally hundreds of submittals that could have won that we think were first rate, and we're really happy with the 3 who are now in phase 2, and they're working out all the
Yeah.
details of their idea. They're changing an idea into a plan, and
Yeah.
there's going to be a lot of evolution and morphing going on in phase 2.
Yeah. So all three of those kind of like finalists into this next process are available online to see, right?
Yeah, you go to our
Yeah.
website, everything's there, including 4-minute videos of the 3 finalists' ideas.
Yeah. Yeah, they're beautiful actually. I when they were released, we popped into that kind of the Zoom meeting or whatever you want to call it that you guys did online, and it was incredible. I was blown away. I was actually really excited for what this could do for the city or what would be there. Just kind of even the one that even took like the idea of having the shape of the old light tower when you look at it certain angles, or changing the light so it could do that every once in a while. It was like brilliant, like really creative stuff. So where are you at now? So you have the three kind of like finalists, and then now there are they. Is this next part of the process to see like, okay, well, wait a second, is this even physically possible, or where are you at now?
So they are indeed 3 finalists, and it is interesting just to play off of one thing you said, that two of the three ended up having in essence a negative of the old tower
Yeah,
embedded inside of their designs, and we did not in any way tell the jury to do that. And interestingly, some of the jurors who are not even locals loved the idea of having some kind of homage to the old light
yeah,
tower because of the integrated history with our community. So that was a
yeah,
surprise to me, but it's really, I think it's turned out to be really nice. But
yeah,
phase 2 is happening now. So the three individuals who were the submitters have now created teams of between 10 and 20 experts. These are including landscape architects, structural engineers, uh, Imagineer types of all kinds, architects, etc. Those
hmm,
teams are now taking what it was an idea. Remember, it was an ideas competition, not a
yeah,
fully blown design competition. So they are working as teams to create another submission, which will be evaluated in January and then in March by the jury, and then the winner will be chosen. But the phase
yeah,
2 design will be truly a design with lots of budget estimates, schedule estimates, and lots more detail, including structural, than
yeah,
than they previously had to do. Also, I want to make one other really important point about what we're trying to do is we're not just trying to create this giant sculpture of some kind that drops into the park. We want to activate that park.
yeah,
That park is tragic. You know, I
yeah,
you live downtown, Daniel, just like
yeah,
I do. You go to the arena and you can see the tragedy that is Arena Green right now.
yeah,
We want that entire park to be a place that children, adults, elderly people, everybody can go and can do lots of activities, can spend days there, feel safe. It'll be well lighted and
yeah,
and gorgeous, and it'd be a source of pride instead of a source of embarrassment like it is now. So
yeah,
we are doing far more than just trying to have a landmark in the park. We want to have places, whether it's museums or ice cream shops or whatever it might be, that
Yeah.
that are appealing to people in general to have lots of fun, like other great parks in the world. We're not trying to do anything that's never been done before.
Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, it's the idea of placemaking, right? I mean, it's not just the idea of
Indeed.
having a attractive, big, shiny object, but also how do you bring vitality to the entire area. So yeah, totally. Now you guys also too with this project, if I remember correctly, and I'm at the age where I don't remember things, but I think the three finalists are actually. It's not just like they're submitting it now. They have to go on out of their own budget. Didn't you guys actually help them in this next phase financially to build out the next process? Well, I think I remember that from the beginning.
They each received or are receiving a $150,000 stipend to refine their ideas. So it's a sizable amount of money to get them to be able to pay all of these first rate professionals in their fields to help
Yeah.
them with their idea and make it better.
And that's kind of unique in these kind of competitions, right? That actually you would get some sort of stipend to refine it, right? Isn't that kind of that's
No,
not a
it's not unique. It's
oh, okay.
typical, depending on the precise details. But once you get armies of professionals working, they're used to getting stipends.
Yeah.
In fact, we were told originally that we shouldn't do a competition, an open competition, because A-list, famous sort of starchitect types would not submit unless they're being paid, and they were proven to be wrong. We got a lot of submissions from really first-rate people who've done big projects around the world.
Yeah, that's cool. That's awesome. So, there's a lot of uphill yet to happen, right? A lot
Well,
of pushing
we
uphill.
you mentioned our September 18th broadcast. We had a successful capital campaign. Excuse me, we had a successful fundraising campaign, not a capital campaign, between about July and September 18th. We obviously pre-raised a bunch of money, so including our September 18th sort of telethon that we had, we raised
Yeah.
about $1 million, which
Mhm.
in the days of COVID is remarkable, and we are
Yeah.
really we're grateful to our hundreds and hundreds of donors, including you, by the way. Thank you, who have
Sure.
allowed us to get to this point. We have about 400 donors in total. We've raised about $2.5 million. Uh,
Yeah.
but this we now have a financial runway to get to the capital campaign, which will start in a year or so. And you talked about the uphill pushes. The capital campaign will be the hardest part. I'm really lucky in our organization. John Ball spent his career. He's the chairman of our board. He spent his career building hundreds of millions of
Yeah.
dollars or $1 billion projects, including San Jose Airport and a lot of other fabulous things. Christine Davis is a really successful businesswoman, and also she and her husband John had a construction company, Air Systems, in the mechanical world. The reason I mention those
Yeah.
is that we have professionals on our team who can build big, complicated things. And if we didn't, we wouldn't be successful. So
Yeah.
a lot of the confidence that we have from big donors comes from the fact that we have a team that's capable to deliver something spectacular, and we know we can do that. But still, raising lots of money is a lot of work, and we're in the pre-capital campaign phase now, where we'll be working with large donors, not to ask them for money, but to ask to educate them about what we're doing. And
Yeah.
our project resonates for a lot of people who just care about community and get the idea of building a beautiful community. If you think about it, Daniel, if it weren't for people who came before us,
Yeah.
we wouldn't have a Golden Gate Bridge. We wouldn't have a Space Needle. We wouldn't have a Statue of Liberty. We would just have empty fields. And so,
Yeah.
in the same way as they basically bequeath these beautiful things to us, we want to bequeath beautiful things to our children and grandchildren. And that idea resonates for really most people. So we haven't had much resistance to our fundraising. The people love what we're doing and want to help us, and it's a team effort. We're a
Yeah.
community organization. It's not just our small group. We've got the better part of 100 advisors that we turn to all the time, and community leaders like yourself who are interested in what we're doing.
Yeah. So, I guess, one of my big concerns, and I don't know, is just the relationship would be with the city and the land. Has that been, I mean, is that something that's like a done deal? I'm not sure. I remember there was talk about them, leasing it for, so many years or something like that. How's that aspect going along?
Thank you for asking. That's a really important component of our project. The city will own the project. We are going to give it as a gift to the
Yeah.
city. So they won't be the landlord. They'll be the owner. And exactly how it's operated is not clear yet. We agreed in conversations with the mayor and Raul Perales and other council people and city staff going right up to the city manager that we don't know enough yet to know how this thing should be run, whether it should be city
Hmm.
departments or a third party. And so we'll all meet next year once we have a winning design that will allow us to have really concrete discussions about the best way to do this from our perspective and from the perspective of the city. And I can tell you that we've had two unanimous votes from the city. The second one basically allowed us to use Arena Green as our site,
Good.
and the city has been nothing but supportive. The staff people, in particular, my counterpart at the Parks and Recs department is Nicole Burnham.
Uh,
She's been incredibly valuable in helping us strategize what we need to do. John
yeah.
Cicerelli, who's the head of the Parks department, is on the jury and has been really helpful. The city manager Dave Sykes and others, and we turn to them all the time for advice. And one thing that we've all learned, because we're all of a certain age, is that we need to be collaborative with all of the stakeholders. So
Yeah.
we meet monthly with the Guadalupe River Park Conservancy and Little Italy, the Parks Department, the San Jose Sharks, Spur, and the Downtown Association. And the point I'm trying to make is that this is not us operating in a silo. We all are working in as Chris Thompson at Night likes to say. He wanted to make sure we're all pulling the rope in the same direction. So we're
Yeah.
working hard to make sure that's the case because that park is a kind of a jewel in the rough and an amenity
Yeah.
for all citizens. It's not just for us or for people downtown. It's for everyone in the city, and it's for people regionally and nationally. If you look at great parks, if you and I went on a trip together to go to New York to listen to some jazz, we would go to Central Park because it's
Right.
one of the most important amenities in the city, and
Yeah.
we want Arena Green to be like that.
Totally. And I think the connection to like the Guadalupe Trail and some, like the bridge that's there that goes over to the other side. And I mean, I think it really could help bring some vitality to that area. So, I'm super excited to see this. I hope that, it happens in my lifetime.
Oh, it will. And by the
Yeah.
way, you mentioned a bridge. One or more of the submitters may include one or more bridges in their final design, just to show you the fact that the phase two is going to significantly evolve the phase one idea. So in phase one, it's just an idea. In phase two, there's lots of detail. So uh, we've always thought bridges in the park would really be
Yeah.
an improvement to the park. For one thing, the east and the west are separated now, and the only way to go from the east to the west is on the street, either on St. James
Right.
or Santa Clara, even though in the original park design there was a bridge designed from Confluence Point to Arena Green East, but it never got built. So we want to remedy all that. We want to make the park beautiful. We want it to be
Yeah.
clean and safe and well lit, etc.
Yeah. So from having going from movie theater to restaurants to, everything that you've been doing, what is something that you really have seen is been valuable that has helped you in this project?
Well, as I get older, I learn to listen more. I probably still don't listen enough. I like to talk too much, but I would say to listen and to collaborate. And John Ball and Christine Davis and I really listen a lot, and we are collaborating with everyone who cares about our downtown, our city, and that park. So it probably took me 40 years to learn, but I think I'm getting better at listening to others and respecting their opinions and knowing that even people with differing opinions have the same noble goals to do something good in the park because everybody doesn't support and exactly agree with what our vision is for the park, but
Sure.
we certainly listen to them and respect them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. What would you say then for you? What is kind of like your philosophy of life? What kind of, like what's your perspective of how you approach the world?
Well, Daniel. Well,
Yeah.
I'm a social creature, so I really like placemaking and building things and, looking at the way my life unfolded with restaurants, bars, and theaters. All of them involve lots of people. And then that sort of prepared me for doing San Pedro Square Market with Tom McHenry, John McHenry, and Martin Menne, the owners. And
Yeah.
again, the whole point of that was to create synergy and energy in the middle of our town. And 10 years ago, when we were doing that, people thought we were nuts and they said it was going to be a complete failure. But we had this vision for a gathering place, which is largely what San Pedro Square Market is.
Yeah.
If we're successful with what we're doing now, again, it's a gathering place. So that was a long roundabout way of saying that I like social interaction. I like urban centers. I like cities. I would not want to hide in the suburbs, certainly, or in the mountains. I like the man swarm, as Thomas Wolfe said.
Yeah.
And so it's all consistent with, I guess, my sort of social nature. And also, a lot of the things I ended up doing were triggered by owning when we were young guys. My partners and I, we owned this restaurant that was sort of the cool place in San Jose in the 70s and 80s. And the reason I mentioned it is we got to meet everybody. So every
Yeah.
politician and developer and artist and musician, everybody came through. So it allowed us, even as young guys, to get to know these people. And they ended up being really important relationships going forward. When you want to do
Yeah.
something big, I can call people and ask them for help. And that's been a big thing. But I'd say what floats my boat, my at the point in life where I am now, is just trying to be kind. Kindness is the missing link largely in life and in our society.
Yeah.
So, if you can, just be kind, call it a day. The rest of it's all just details.
Yeah. Well, I have to say, I mean, you have definitely, I know when I kind of started showing up on the scene, I mean, I was overwhelmed by your generosity, your kindness, and even helping us out at different pickup parties with food from Cafe Stritch when it was going. And I think even times there was, I don't even think it was necessarily reopened yet, and then yet you guys were still willing to help the community, not only us, but other organizations, and you guys have always been very giving with what you do, and I really appreciate it.
Well, just
Um,
like you, Daniel, if when you give things away, more comes back to you than you gave. So it's it's the way the world works.
yeah, yeah, that's
It's not
cool.
just about the money, it's really more about the relationships. So I
Yeah,
care. I really care about family and friends and, people like you, and it's what gives our life, richness and wonder.
yeah, it's fun, and I feel that you've kind of done that. Even as you're talking about having the restaurant, it seems to me like you've kind of been able to develop all these working relationships that you do for work or for livelihood or whatever. But it's really kind of like friends, and they're right. I mean, we can think of Sam as a friend. We can think of Raul as a friend. We could, you know what I mean? It's not just
No doubt.
that office or that person or something like that. Yeah,
Well, one of the things that I think happens for some of us, maybe the lucky ones who like our work, is that work and non-work are integrated.
yeah,
And I feel like people who go and sort of are watching the clock or watching the career so they can retire, they have it all backwards. That I like the integration of my work and my life, and it's all just one thing. It's people like you. If I didn't like you, I wouldn't hang out with you. I
yeah,
I go to the people who bring me joy and fun, and it's whether it's work or play, it's all kind of the same. I get the fact that we all have to work and make money, and I've never been very good at that, to be honest. But apart from that, I think that my life is really rich. I've got
yeah,
my golf friends, my jazz friends, and it's all just time well spent with people I like. So
yeah.
I kind of feel like I'm the Lou Gehrig of the downtown scene.
Yeah. So, what were there times though, especially like with the restaurant, that you just really just wanted to give up, not only on, throwing the towel in the restaurant or whatever, but even just in kind of like San Jose?
On the restaurant, yes, there were times that were just brutal, always driven by the difficulty of money, because
Yeah.
at its best, running a restaurant's hard. At its worst, it's just absurd and impossible. So yeah,
Yeah.
I thought about giving up and throwing in the towel on the restaurant, but no, I've never been ready to give up on downtown San Jose as my life project, essentially. And I think that I raised all my kids on 14th Street.
Yeah.
So I lived a mile from work. I went to San Jose State. The vast majority of my activities are here, and as I get
Yeah.
older, frankly, my life keeps shrinking. I don't have a car now, so I just ride my bike and walk
Yeah.
mostly. You know,
Yeah.
I can borrow a car from my girlfriend Taryn if I need to, but
Yeah.
uh, but I mostly don't. The point of that is that my world has shrunk, and I love downtown San Jose and the people. You know, it's not perfect, and we've got a ways to go. But if you look, there's nothing but optimism when you look at what the Gary Dillabo and Jeff Arriaga are
Yeah.
doing with West Bank. If you look at Jay Paul's project, Adobe's project, the whole Google shot, Diridon
Yeah.
Station, our project, and then you got these wonderful little gems like the new coffee house that just opened on First Street where Frascati used to
Nirvana
be.
Soul. Yeah.
Yeah, Nirvana Soul, very sweet. Kind of
Yeah.
remind me of me when we started, or not me, but us. Just you're just young and giving it your best shot. Um,
Yeah.
but what makes a great downtown is just a bunch of little quirky, great places
Yeah.
and quirky things like Content Magazine. You know, we're all part of that Eulipian subculture, and what makes it all work is visual art, music, sculpture, museums, galleries, street art, chalk art, whatever it
Yeah.
might be, buskers, San Pedro Square Market types of places, and you
Yeah.
combine all those, and it's fun to walk down the street. And you know, just like me, that we're the lucky ones. We walk down the street, we see somebody we know on every corner,
Yeah.
and
It's fun.
it's our home. It's there's nothing artificial about it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's great. Yeah. So for you, what during this time of COVID, what has been a lesson that you've kind of like learned, or like kind of like a transformation that you have seen in yourself?
Interesting question. I've been one of the kind of lucky ones during COVID in that my son Mike, who owns Cafe Stritch, he and I work at Cafe Stritch, just the two of us. So I'm able to go to the office. So my day to day activity isn't really much different than it was
Yeah.
pre COVID. I would not want to be working at home personally. I know some people like it, but I would not like that.
Yeah.
But um, I would say that my biggest lesson might have been really from my son Mike, who owns Stritch, which is that he's got this very philosophical attitude about business and uh, Stritch and survival. And
Yeah.
he knows, as like anybody who's being honest, that no one knows what's going to happen. We may, in a year, it might be back to the way it was. In a year, we might all still be
Yeah.
their restaurants and bars and museums might still be closed.
Yeah.
We might have athletes performing for a couple of years to arenas with no people, and then we just don't know. But the lesson is not to be too attached to financial outcomes.
Yeah.
So I think that the lucky ones are the ones who have realized that. So you don't go home depressed every day that either you don't have a job or you don't have any money, and you just if we find other ways. It's about the human relationships at its core anyway. So if your current financial gig's not working, find a new one.
Yeah. Yeah. What would you say then if you were looking back? This is, that standard question, but if you we're looking at young, bright eyed, bushy tail Steve from 1975, 77, getting ready to launch these projects, what one advice would you give little Stevie?
Save money every week.
Yeah,
Let
that's
it
a good one.
let it gather its interest over 40 or 50 years. The 40 or 50 years are going to go more quickly than you think. I would say,
Yeah.
other than that, I don't have a lot of regrets, but if there was one, and I tell my kids this, save, and then just keep saving. You don't have to save a lot, but 40 years of compound interest
Yeah.
end up really being a lot. When I was a young guy, I thought I was going to be some kind of a constitutional law teacher or something like that. That was my interest when I was in college.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. Another thing that happens, Daniel, I think your life is kind of like this too, that
Yeah.
you take these strange turns and find yourself doing something that you never thought you were going to do,
Yeah.
but you do it, and if you enjoy it, you keep doing it. So
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of regrets, but yeah, I would tell young Stevie to save his shekels.
Yeah, that's good advice. I wish I would have heard that when I was younger too. Especially living so much of my life as doing, a self-employed photographer
Yes.
type thing, right? And thinking, "Oh, yeah, I have the future to do that." And the next thing you know, 15 years go by and it's like, "Oh, I've been spending everything I get, enjoying life." But at the same time, I don't really have any regrets either.
As you shouldn't.
Yeah. All right. So, how can people find out what's going on with Urban Confluence?
I'm the easiest guy to find in town. You just go to the Urban Confluence website or type my name in or type in landmark San Jose, and a lot of roads lead to us. So, Urban Confluence website is a really good website. I think we've got
Yeah.
lots of information, and if anybody goes to it and doesn't see the answers they want, call me. I'm
Yeah.
always available to talk to anybody. Again, we're partners with every citizen in our city.
Awesome. That's great. And yeah, let's just do something really crazy. Give me a date when the iconic landmark is going to be launched and open. When's the ribbon cutting?
We hope to be in pre-construction by next summer and in construction maybe a year or a year and a half after that. So our
So you
current
think construction in 2021?
we would hope to be in construction in 2022 and
Okay.
finished a year or two after that, depending on which project wins. It could take a year to 2 years to build something this complicated, and also
Yeah.
uh, I feel like I'm beating the dead horse, but we want the whole park to be improved. So there'll be a lot of partners in there, whether it be the city doing things for the city or other stakeholders just wanting to improve the park. So we've got a few years left for sure.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, thank you, Steve. I just appreciate you on a personal friend level, welcoming my family in to the city and to your place, and then what you're doing for the city with Urban Confluence. I'm excited about it. So, in any way we can help, we'd love to help too. So,
Well, you have and you continue to, and you're one of the real sparkles in our city, Daniel. We're lucky to have you.
it's like a appreciation fest. I do appreciate you, Steve.
That's how we run.
Yeah, cool. And hopefully I'll see you. I mean, I do see every once in a while. I see you like going by on your bike, not quite like the witch in Wizard of Oz, because you always have a smile, and there's no Toto stuck in your basket. But hope to see you out there on the street. We got to get together for dinner, like we've talked about for the last couple of years, right? That would be fun to do that.
It's time for us to do that. So let's not make any more excuses.
Social distance mask dinner. You
You
got it.
got it.
Yeah.
That's right.
Steve, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. And good luck with this project.
It's been a real pleasure, Daniel, as always.
All right. Talk to you later.
Bye bye.
To find out more about Urban Confluence, go to urbanconfluencesiliconvalley.org. Also visit the website to see the 3 finalist projects. Thank you for listening to the Content Magazine podcast. Follow us on social media at Content Mag. Visit our website to become a member and help us to continue to tell the stories of the local creators. This episode's music is Time Alone by Mild Monk. Follow him on Spotify and also on his Instagram at Mild Monk Music.